Back now to the G7 summit, which has wrapped up in France. Trade, the fires in Brazil, and US relations with China and Iran were features of the international leaders' meeting. Here to look back over the event is Dr. Bryce Wakefield, who is National Executive Director of the Australian Institute of International Affairs. Bryce, welcome. Was this a successful summit?
Thanks, Ros. Well, it depends what you mean by successful and what your expectations of the outcomes of the summit were. The summit didn't produce a joint communique, but most people were expecting that that would not be the case. If you look at what Emmanuel Macron, the host president's expectations were, I mean, the French had really highlighted inequality, climate, Brazilian forest fires, and digital issues as the key issues, and none of those were really mentioned in the communique. But of course, like any G7 summit, this was an opportunity for leaders to meet. Some leaders got to put issues on the table. So, for example, Boris Johnson got to talk about the possibility of a free trade agreement with the United States. Shinzo Abe of Japan got to actually finalize a free trade agreement with the United States, which has been a particularly sore issue, trade, in the bilateral relationship. So for them it was successful, but overall as a forum that produced a powerful statement, no.
One of the later developments was a possible meeting between Donald Trump and the president of Iran. When the summit began, the Iranian foreign minister made a surprise appearance in Biarritz. How likely is a meeting between the two leaders now?
Between Trump and, well, not likely at all. Trump has predicated his policy towards Iran on a doctrine of what he calls maximum pressure, pressuring the Iranians to give up nuclear weapons or a nuclear weapons program. Essentially not putting any faith into what he calls the Obama-Iran deal, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. And if anything, this G7 really acted as a platform for him to convince his allies that they should be joining him in this policy of maximum pressure.
Was this a good meeting, Bryce, for Scott Morrison? He was there as a special invite.
I would say absolutely. I mean, any G7 where Australia is invited is a good G7 for the Australian Prime Minister. But beyond that, if you're judging it by the kind of core issues that Scott Morrison was expected to focus on, again, combating violent extremism in social media, that wasn't part of the final media or the final declaration of the G7. But Morrison did get to meet with world leaders to put Australia's issues on the agenda. We know, for example, that he talked with Boris Johnson about the possibility of getting in first in line on a trade deal with a post-Brexit Britain. So yeah, I mean, any G7 that allows the Australian Prime Minister to push Australia's interests like this one did is a good G7.
Next year's meeting is in the US, and given the latitude there seems to be in who the host can invite, what can we expect with Donald Trump in charge?
Well, the host can invite nations to take part on the margins of the G7. What the host cannot do is unilaterally add members to the core group of the G7. So he may well want to invite Putin, and he may well want to invite him as a sort of marginal member. But the question is whether Putin would accept that. There's a lot of face involved in these decisions, and Putin may not want to countenance being a minor member of the G7 rather. He would rather be a member of the G8. What is interesting is that if Putin goes to the United States, he'll be going in an election year, and we all know the problems surrounding Russia and American elections. So, yeah, I mean, if he goes, it will be interesting to watch.
Dr. Bryce Wakefield, thank you.
Thank you.